About 20 years ago, I was asked to conduct a professional development session for my school district. I began by introducing myself. My name's Lori Roberts, and I teach at Timberline High School. And then I set the participants to work on a small task. As I was walking around the perimeter of the classroom, a gentleman looked up and said to me, "So, which Roberts are you married to?" And I said, I'm not." And he said, "Oh, sorry, which Roberts were you married to?" Now, there was nothing particularly insulting or upsetting about this encounter, and yet it has stuck with me over these last 2 decades, and I think it's mostly because of what it reveals about this man's mindset. He saw in front of him a 40-ish woman, and his assumption was she is married. In fact, his default assumption was she's married to a Roberts. Second least likely, she's divorced from a Roberts, and the least likely, she was born Roberts. My parents got married in the 1950s, and they were 19 when they got married. Pretty typical for the time and for the culture. In 1976, my oldest brother got married at 19 as well. I was 12 at the time, and if I think about it, just about everybody I knew who got married or was married around that time was around 20 years old. Seemed like the way things were supposed to be done. My second oldest brother was 25 and still single. And like a little bit of the community around me, I was a little concerned, maybe a little puzzled by this. Still, he got married at 29, and then my other 2 brothers married at 26 and 30, and it was the 80s. Things were changing. This all seemed within the realm of normal. But by the time that youngest brother of mine got married, I was 32. Still single. It was at 32 that I received a diagnosis of endometriosis. What I remember most about that first moment of diagnosis is the doctor's intense concern about my fertility. It turns out that about 50% of women with a diagnosis of endometriosis have troubles with fertility. And he told me, if you're going to have a baby, you need to do it pretty soon because it gets worse as you get older. Over the next 5 or 6 years, it turns out that just about every doctor's appointment I had, every wellness exam, ended up focusing on the fact that I should have a baby soon if I was going to have one. And frankly, I started to get a little bit annoyed. I'm here for a wellness exam. Why is the default conversation about pregnancy? And the truth is, more and more, it felt like my singleness and my childlessness equaled inadequacy and a life half-lived. Like so many cultural liturgies, I would imagine that this one may be more visible to people on the outside looking in. The solar salespeople ring my doorbell and ask if we are interested in hearing their sales talk. The banquet organizers insist on me bringing a guest. No spouse will surely you have a friend who would come. The real estate agent selling me my second home when I was 39 keeps telling me that I'm not looking for my dream home. I'll look for that after I find my husband. Early in my career, a colleague said to me one day, "So why aren't you married?" And I said, "Well, I haven't found the right guy." And he said, with a completely straight face, "Don't you think it would be better to be married rather than to be single, even if he's not the right guy?" Most of the time, I can pretty easily let these things go. They're amusing, puzzling, sometimes disappointing, but rarely upsetting. It's what they say about the world, not what they say about me. It's a married world, and I'm just living in it. I'm certainly not immune from cultural pressures and beliefs about marriage. Another time someone tried to fix me up on a date. Their main selling point was, "This guy is great. He's 50 and he's never been married." And my very first thought was, he's 50 and never been married? What is wrong with him? I can hear the hypocrisy. I can. Here I was living my perfectly great life, and yet I'm critical in my head of the single guy. Singleness has at times left me wondering, what is wrong with me? What specific element of normalness am I missing? The truth is, I would call myself pro-marriage. I have in my own immediate family 213 years of beautiful, healthy, inspiring marriages. Sometimes at weddings, I find myself looking longingly as the groom looks at his beautiful bride walking down the aisle, wondering what that would be like to be looked at like that. But I have come to believe that the truly good life is not reserved for those who enter into marriage. Yes, our culture, and at times especially church culture, does make it seem like this is the case. As it turns out, as of 2021, my home state of Idaho has the smallest number of never married adults in the nation. So I am surrounded by this culture. A candidate for vice president has made infamous comments about single women. In particular, how he finds it disturbing that a single teacher might be influencing our nation's children. Guilty as charged, Mr. Vance. I think of the girl who wrote me the letter that included this line: Miss Roberts, until I met you, I'd never known a single adult woman who was happy. Or the one who left the note on my desk that included these words: I would like to thank you for showing us what it takes to be truly happy. That sometimes you don't need Prince Charming, just the castle, the clothes, the wonderful people around you, and the coffee, of course. When I pictured the good life as a 20-something, that picture undoubtedly included husband and children. But deep down, I believe that even then, I was really picturing a life of peace and plenty. But I couldn't imagine peace and plenty without a spouse. I believed that if I loved somebody, I would love my life. But I've come to believe now that whether we are never married, widowed, divorced, engaged, or wonderfully married, partnership or lack thereof is not the defining element for satisfaction in life. Finding my peace and joy in doing challenging creative work, developing a robust, loving community, and seeking to form my spirit in relationship with the creator of the universe, now that's the good life.